Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ambassador Application Information Session. We thank you for being here and for your interest in the American Indian College Fund Ambassador Program. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the application process, what it looks like, what it feels like, and then also what to expect from the Ambassador Program. We are joined here by several current ambassadors who have participated both in the application as well as in the ambassador program itself. To begin with, we will start with questions. Have the ambassadors introduce themselves by name, region, where they are attending, and their major, and of course their tribal affiliation. And then we will pivot into general questions for the different populations that make up our ambassador program. With the application process, it is currently open. I just want to repeat, the application is currently open. The deadline to apply is April 17th. That is Friday, April 17th. We encourage you to submit your application as early as possible. There is a recommendation letter portion of the application in which we ask that a faculty or staff member from your school, your university, your college, submit a recommendation letter on your behalf that the committee will read and review as part of your application. So to kick it off, Deanna, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you chose your recommender.
Hi everybody, Yat Esh Garushna Esh Adiana Taylor Yinsha, Tatnisani Nishlin, Turich Ini Bashin Chink, Arch Ishache, Techin Dashinale, Akot Ego, Denesta Nishlin, Ado, Bistoglizin Dishki, Denasha. Hi everybody, my name is Deanna Teller and I am Tangles People Clan, born for Bitterwater. My maternal grandfather is Red Bottom and my paternal grandfather is Red Running into Water. I come from Blue Gap, Arizona, in the Navajo Nation, and I am the nymph woman, and you said introduce myself, right? Okay. I'm a first generation college student and an ambassador for American Indian College Fund for the year of 2024. I earned my associates in science and health exercise science from Haskell Indian Nations, and I recently graduated with my bachelor's in environmental science. And I was also a collegiate athlete at Haskell, but how you said how I selected my employer, you mentioned.
The person who recommended you for the ambassador program, how you selected them.
Oh, it was just a close friend, Jalen Roman. He was a previous ambassador, and I felt like it was a really good opportunity for me to grow professionally and personally. So I just wanted to apply to better myself. And through this program, I felt like I was surrounded by a lot of indigenous scholars, and surrounding myself with those group type of people, I feel like they gave me the confidence to grow and do more for myself. So that's how I met the person who referred me to American Indian College Fund, but that's about it. Just for self growth and just being around these type of people who continue to help me grow.
Awesome. Thank you, Deanna. I'm going to pass it to Annalise. Same question. If you could introduce yourself and what thought process did you go through when you selected the person to write your recommendation letter?
Siona Ga. Hello, everyone. My name is Annalise Guthrie. I'm a citizen of Cherokee Nation. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and I currently attend the University of Kansas, where I'm pursuing my PhD in ecology and evolutionary biology. I got my bachelor's at Haskell Indian Nations University, and I'm part of the 2024 to 2025 Ambassador Cohort. So whenever I was thinking of who to select for my letter of recommendation. It was a little bit different than if I was going to maybe apply for a scholarship. I wanted to find somebody who would kind of be able to speak to my sort of commitment to academics, but also my commitment to community. So I selected somebody who was from, I am on the executive board for the at-large Kansas City Cherokee community, which is the at-large satellite community of Cherokee Nation. And so I selected a fellow board member who knew my commitment to academics, but more importantly, knew my commitment to community and like wanting to sort of encourage others to, continue forward in their student success. So that's how I selected my letter of recommendation person.
That is always the most difficult part is like, who knows me well, who can speak to my experiences. Definitely it's the hardest part of the application process, in my opinion, but maybe Sasha will disagree with me. Sasha, will come over to you. If you could introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about your recommender and their relationship to you. How long have you guys known each other? That sort of thing.
Um, okay, first I'll introduce myself. I'm Sasha Daranoff. I am from Central Council Clinton Haida in Southeast Alaska. My region is Northwest. I am with two schools. I am doing a bachelor's of business administration at Ilisagavik College and also in bachelor's of science in electrical engineering at ASU. Um, let's see. So that is all that. So here's the thing about that question. I don't remember who I had. So, I don't know. Is there a different question I can answer?
No, I think that's perfect. I think that's definitely the life of a student, the mindset of a student of like that panic of like, I need to submit this, who's the best option. It's not really anyone you need to have a lasting relationship with. Like you don't expect them to be besties for 10 years, see each other often. It's the person that knows you in that moment at that time. But I'll tee you up for another question, Sasha. What about how did you approach them, if you remember that? Was it an email? Was it in person? Do you remember how you asked?
I'm pretty sure it was with email. I do a lot in email, being a remote student and a really busy student because I work and school and kids, all of the above, all the time, it seems like. And so I likely sent an email. That's probably the easiest way so that people can reply on their own time.
Great point. And you do have a written record. That's one of the most important portions of this is that you want to make sure you have a written record. So you can also do the follow-up. Hey, I don't know if you missed this. Could you please let me know if you're still eligible to submit this recommendation letter on my behalf? That's also a big ask too sometimes. All right, so we're actually going to go into the questions. If y'all remember the questions from the ambassador application, um, the biggest one I think is the activities, honors, or projects from the last year that transformed you into a leader in your community and how this represents your personal values. Lisa, you look pensive. I know you're from a previous cohort, but could you maybe talk a little bit about how you would approach this question as you complete an application? And of course, introduce yourself first, please.
Hi, I'm Lisa Amesbeck. I am also from the 24-25 cohort ambassador program. I am from the Blackfeet Nation in Browning, Montana, and I graduated from our community college with my associates in social work and addiction studies. I graduated from the University of Montana last spring with my bachelor's in social work, and I graduate May 8th with my master's in social work. And so I just want to give props to the college fund for helping me get there. And that question, I feel is like a real tough question because it seems like when we're thinking about positive stuff that we do in our life, it's always hard to be like, oh, hey, I've done this, this, and this. So it's one of those questions that, you really have to think about. And even the little accomplishments that you feel are little are probably a big accomplishment to somebody else. And so I know I had a really hard time with it. I felt like, I've done, like I didn't do anything. I'm like, what did I do? But after I sat down and like kind of met with a few of my other students and peers that I was in school, they're like, well, you've done this. And so I was a part of our student senate at our community college. And so a lot of the activities we done, it was a lot of community service. It was a lot of just community activities that we did together. And I never really thought of those as being like a big accomplishment. But after we sat there, they're like, you're bringing families together, you're bringing students together. And so just thinking about outside of the box instead of thinking, oh, did I get, am I on the president's list? Am I on, different awards like that? Think smaller, because then as you think smaller, you'll be able to realize some of the bigger ones and how you got to where you were at.
Great advice, Lisa. I really love that. It's those big things to other people, but maybe it's just your everyday. Like that is a great way to answer that question. Really thought-provoking too, of like the impact of community. Focusing in on those words really highlights what the community is looking for. I say that like I'm not on the committee. I am, but definitely listening to these ambassadors now, you could hear why we selected them and what a boon it is to hear from them, this selection process or what went into their application. Okay, so another question we have on the application. If you were to give advice to yourself at the start of your academic journey, what advice would you share to prepare yourself for success? And we're going to go to Promise. So, Promise, if you could introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about how you would answer that question in a written format.
Hi, everyone. I'm Promise Mace. I am part of the Yankton Sioux tribe and the Sante Sioux Nation. I grew up on the Yankton Sioux Reservation. I am a cohort of the 2024-2025 ambassador program, and then like an ambassador forever. I still like anything I do, I'm like, oh, I'm an ambassador also too. Um, I would say what I would tell myself, I'm glad that I was delusional as like crazy as possible. Like all these things, like I would like write out my whole future. Like I'm going to be a teacher. Oh yeah. Also, I'm finishing my bachelor's degree. It's a dual major, special education, K through 12 and early elementary. Um, that's just like elementary style students, like in a public school. Right now, I work as a special education teacher at a private school. And back to my story, like in all my papers I would write out like I'm going to go to college and I'm going to be a special education teacher, and then by this year after I graduate I'll go in and get my master's degree for behavior analyst. And I am so glad that I was so delusional. Like, and those aren't like crazy delusions, but I would just like write my whole future, like this is what I'm going to do, these are the things I'm going to execute, and these are the timelines. I'm just like a very much like calendar type person of like writing like when things are due, when I need to have it done by. Um, I don't know if that's great. For me, it's good advice because the more delusional you are, not delusion in a bad way, but just being like, this is where I see myself in this amount of years, or this is where I see myself by next month. Like keeps like leveling you up and more, and putting that in a format. Like I have journals from like when I first started going to college of like how hard it was, but I'm a first generation student, so I, not saying I didn't have a choice, but I wanted to make my grandma proud and myself, because like before I became an ambassador, my grandma passed away and I would tell her like all the things that I was going to do, and being an ambassador was one of them. Like I was already putting I'm an ambassador like on my resume and stuff, and then people would be like, "Well, we need proof." And I'm like, "Well, not yet, not yet. I'm going to be." So, I would say keep being delusional, and I'll support you if you need my support.
That's a great way to answer that question because we're really looking at honesty. We're really looking at, are you reflecting on yourself as a person? Are you able to pinpoint where in your journey you felt like you had the most impact and where you're like, oh, that was a mistake, but I can make the correction. I can make that change. And if that changes, let's be more delusional. I'm here for it because we need that really. So I'm going to pass it on over to Alton. Alton, if you could introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about the edits you went through for your application. Did you go to anybody? Did you do any draft work, any type of pre-work, whether that be, webs or what are they called? Outlines. That's what they're called. Did you have anybody look at your work before you submitted it?
Hello, my name is Alton Bird. I'm from the 2025 cohort. I'm Yakima, Dene, and Creek enrolled Yakima and edits. I think what I did mainly was kind of just talk to the people that I knew that had already completed degrees. Um, I talked to my sister who is a alumni at Seattle U and kind of went through what I would need to do to present myself. So I kind of reached out to other people who had ideas of getting your presentation out there and kind of helping you to navigate who you are, what needs to be put at the forefront, and what you. So a lot of times my mentors they kind of said you don't put so much into one aspect of where you're at. You try to, kind of have a variety of things that you want to put at the forefront, kind of like a resume. You only want to put the good things that you've done and you've accomplished along the way. And it's really interesting when you start to pull all the things together that make you stand out from other people. I think was what it would be. Um, I think I did a video. I think that was one of the components too, or later on was a video. That was probably the roughest thing to do was that video. I must have took about 10 or 15 different takes because I would forget what I was trying to say and I didn't want to have a piece of paper to have me to present myself. So I'd erase it again, I'd forget to say something or I'd want to say something in a different direction. But yeah, so the video that was the roughest thing that was part of that. I think that's after the application, though. I think that they want to see a video after that. But yeah, so just reaching out to other people who have already presented themselves in a professional way was the biggest, like your mentors. That was the biggest help that I use as to fulfill my application, that component.
Well, you heard it here. Alton gave it away. There's a secret third part, fourth part of this application process. No, I'm teasing Alton. There is a video component, and that's why you attend these types of events because you hear about things that aren't openly advertised. And there's a reason why. We want our ambassadors with quick turnaround to follow instructions to submit works and be quick in open communication. And that's kind of why the next two parts we actually don't really advertise as part of the application. It's strategic in that way. So there is, after the deadline, April 17th, there is a call for all applicants to submit a very short, it was like 30 to 60 seconds introduction video in which a small production, nothing crazy, um, and you submit that work with a quick turnaround. I think we give you a whole weekend, very generous of us. No, I'm teasing. To complete the video and to submit it. And again, that's that ask of the College Fund is that we do have a lot of quick turnaround requests, whether that be flying out to Washington, whether that being like, I need a statement or I need you to be interviewed by the New York Times for us. Those types of asks are readily available constantly. And so we really want people who thrive in that type of environment and are willing to do those quick work, that quick turnaround. So we're going to jump to Christopher, and Christopher is going to introduce himself, and he's going to talk a little bit about what he remembers from the video that he submitted.
Hi, Key. Hello, my name is Christopher Eagleton. I am Karuk and Shasta Indian Nation. I'm originally from California and Oregon on the West Coast, but I currently live on the East Coast. I'm getting my bachelor's in legal studies and I go to school at American University in Washington, D.C. And what I remember from the video, like I agree with Alton, it probably took me about 15 to 20 tries before I had a video that I was satisfied with. I think for me and most people, they don't usually record, usually you don't see yourself recorded on video. And so I tried to record the videos if I was just talking to someone else. I know for a lot of people, including myself, it can seem a little bit unnatural and it can take time to get used to. But with enough effort and enough patience, I think you'll get good at it. It took me a while. Um, I would just say to pretend like the camera's not even there and to just talk to it as if you're talking to your family.
And what did you do for background? Do you remember, Alton? Or sorry, Christopher, do you remember what you did for the background of your video?
Like the physical background or
Yeah.
like, oh, oh, that was honestly that was very hard because couldn't, I couldn't find a room that was quiet, but I was able to get, um, like an office that my school had, and I tried to film it during the day so that it wasn't it wasn't filmed in the dark, and that so like the lighting wasn't weird.
Great point. Great point. Deanna, do you remember what your background was for your video?
The background for my video, I think I was in California during that time, so it took me like a good 20 tries to like angle everything out, and I believe it was from like the waist up, and so I just dressed appropriately and then found a really nice area and made sure the lighting was good and they could hear me.
Sound quality is super important. Super important. Um, well, let's also have our other ambassador, Aiyanna. If you want to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about the thought process that went into creating your selfie introduction video.
It's Jay Stongo, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Yeah, Stongo, Aiyanna Tanian Chahachikiros, Delegate Hatogiros. My name's Aiyanna. I am a member of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, and I'm also Muskogee Creek. I'm a little out of breath. I ran to get my charger really quick and brought it back over here. Yeah, so I'm currently, well, I have my Associates of Natural Resources of Sustainable Agriculture from College of the Muskogee Nation, and I currently attend Haskell Indian Nations University, and I'll be graduating this spring with my Bachelor's of Business in Tribal Management. And then I plan on transferring to Kansas University to get my Master's in Indigenous Studies. Um, my background of my video. I pretty sure I was like in a rush. I was doing so many things because I was also trying to run for Miss Haskell. I was also working and I had so many things going on. I think I went in within like a span of like 5 minutes was like, oh my gosh, I have that to do, that is due. I need to go do that. So I hurried and ran, grabbed my laptop, grabbed, pictured what I wanted to say, ran to like the basement of my dorm building set up my camera and everything. And I was in like a storage building in one of the dorm buildings. I left the RA. I asked if they had a quiet space I could use, and they were like, this is the only quiet space we have. And it was like a storage room. There was like chairs built up behind me. I had to like turn the back, like blur the background and everything. Um, and I honestly think it only took me 2 tries to do my video though. I was like, you know what? This is great. I didn't want to make myself nervous by keep redoing it and trying to like perfect it. That I was like, okay, this is exactly how I'm just gonna stick with this. I feel like this is the best for me. This is the best for me. So that was like my video that I did.
That is great advice and also very indicative, I think, of our ambassadors as a whole. Y'all are so busy with your communities, with your campuses, how you take care of yourselves, how you take care of others, that it sometimes does feel like I have 10 minutes to record this. I'm going to give it 2 takes, 2 chances. I'm going to give it my best shot. And look at Aiyanna, she's now an ambassador. And it's that level of excellence in Indigenous peoples that we're looking for that can talk about their experience at the College Fund. And that's another thing I want to highlight during this info session is that what we're looking for our ambassadors is promoting the College Fund. What story do you have, your experience, and how has the College Fund impacted that story? We want to tell people about it. We want to tell the general public. We want to tell your families, your communities. And we also just love to hear it ourselves. We cannot hear enough of how amazing you all are. So I'm going to push this one to Sasha. Sasha, what made you want to be an ambassador and what made you hit that submit button on that application?
Well, I'll tell you, it was not my imposter syndrome. I doubted myself. I was putting everything together and I was going to apply, and I had this moment where all of a sudden I felt, wait a minute, what am I doing? I am not good enough for this portion of it. And someone told me it has nothing to do with good enough. It has to do with what are your goals? What do you want in life? And the biggest thing that I want in life is to help others by advocating for them, helping them to advocate for themselves. And so that's why I went forward with it because it is um, it is a position of advocacy. It's to help others to see what they can also achieve, um, and also knowing what I can achieve, what I can push myself toward, um, because I don't want to just be quiet in the corner. Nobody knows what's going on because if my story can help somebody, then I want it to help somebody, no matter how embarrassed I am.
Embarrassment is key. Sometimes what embarrassment is inexperience. Speaking of embarrassment, let's talk about the third part of the application, the interview. So that's another secret that we keep hidden is that you submit the application, it includes a recommendation letter, you submit the video of your recording introducing yourself, and then you have the interview with the ambassador committee. Um, and with the interview, it is a three-person interview. It does take place via Zoom. So we do have a lot of asks around tech, around sound quality, around how you present yourself. I'm going to ask Annalise, what did you do to prepare for the interview portion of the application?
Yeah, so to prepare for the interview portion of the application, I took the time to review my CV and I reviewed my application materials that I submitted to you all that you had reviewed, so then I could remember exactly what I said, so that I assumed that I would be asked to elaborate on what I said, so I wanted to make sure that I was able to articulate that. So I went back through and I sort of made up questions in my head that I might be asked and sort of like, answered them before I got on the call. And I also kind of just reminded myself, like, okay, they're asking me questions about myself. Like, I can do this. I can answer them, but I kind of went through and thought about some things that I definitely knew I wanted to say to be able to know that sort of I wanted to showcase that I was worth the investment of the college fund's time to actually like pursue me as an ambassador. So I went through and I made sure I had my little quotable lines that I wanted to say to you guys, and I did get those out. So there's things that I made sure to make sure to say, and then everything else was just really me being myself. So, I think just reminding yourself before your interview that you know yourself the best, and it kind of makes you less nervous. So that's kind of how I prepared.
Awesome. And that goes with any interview, really.
Yeah.
Just review, remember who you are. It's like, what did I do? What's my name?
Yeah, exactly.
Alton, do you remember the hardest question for you in the interview?
Yes, I do actually remember it. I think the hardest question was what I wanted to do in the community. Um, if I was given like unlimited resources, I think was a component of that question. And there was something I wanted to say, but I know I totally didn't say that. I started talking kind of from the heart, and then I just totally missed that whole portion. I knew that was going to be a question that was going to be asked me again because it is asked in the application too. And I totally missed it, but I talked about wanting to, give back to my community, wanting to engage the because I'm on a chemical dependency, well, psychology with emphasis in chemical dependency. And what I wanted to do with my life is engage the problem we have on the reservations. And what I wanted to speak about was what I was really doing in the community at that time. At the time that they asked me the question, I was engaged in helping helping incarcerated individuals return to the community and getting them geared up for housing, having them pay some of their LFOs and things like that. And that's what was really going on in my life at that time was helping the reentry programs and all the inter-tribes. That's what I wanted to talk about. Instead, I went off in the different section just concerning my degree. So I kind of thought I messed up at that time. I was like, oh no, that's it. Because I really wanted to be an ambassador. I really wanted to get the know-how and the things that it's given me. So thankfully, I'm here. I made it. I passed the question. But yeah, so I think going into that question, just kind of if you have to, just speak from who you are deep in your heart, because that's what I had to do.
How about you, Lisa? What was the most memorable question from the interview that the committee threw at you?
So I think one of the biggest questions is like my big focus was on my family support. And so I remember they asked me something along the lines, what my biggest motivation was for pursuing the ambassador program. And it was one of those things that I can totally relate with everybody, like go in there and be real, speak about like from who you are and your experience. And like I remember I got totally choked up in my interview um, because a big part of my story is I went back to school later in life, and I'm a mom and a foster mom, and I have a lot of kids. And so my biggest thing was showing my kids that, anything's possible if it's something that you really want. And they've been my driving force through everything. And it was hard because, even now I'm getting choked up about it. But that was the toughest question for me, was talking about my family and how much I want to show them that, anything's possible. I went back late. Um, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up until now. And so they're my motivation. And I'm, even for my community, like that was one of the things I said, I'm going to school because I want to give back to my community. Even if I change, one person's life, I've done what I've set out to do. And so that was my toughest question, talking about my family. And everything else, it wasn't, I talked my way through every other question, but when I got to that one, it was hard for me.
Definitely. And we feel it, we appreciate it. It's a very vulnerable thing to ask people questions about their lives and their experiences, and we love every opportunity to hear from our scholars. Y'all do just so much amazing work. It's incredible. So we have just a few more minutes left on the recording before I want to open it up to some general questions. And sticking to the first part of this was a lot around the interview, applying. So now I just want to jump in a little bit to the ambassador training, the time in which you are invited to our offices in Denver, Colorado, during the month of August. Um, if you could say 5 to 10 words about your experience in Denver at the time, I'll give you a couple of minutes while you think about what you'd like to share with those that are considering applying to the ambassador program, those that might be away from their families or might have a fear of flying or have never been away from home before. If there's something you could say to them about your time, about how it's been beneficial to you, I think that would be helpful. Um, and then also, if you want to just share a little bit about, what it was like being there. If you could do that in 5 to 10, that's not impossible, right? Not for our ambassadors. No, I'm teasing. Why don't we start with, let's go start with Christopher.
Ooh, okay. 5 to 10 words.
I'm not going to
Sorry, this
count
is
the words. It's okay
okay.
if
No,
it's a
no, I'm
little
just
longer. But we love to
um
talk as natives. So
um I in August at the training, it was very informative. I met a lot of wonderful people, and it it was the first time that I think that I felt a sense of belonging and community.
oh, Christopher, you're just crying. Said we wouldn't cry on this one. No, I'm teasing. Thank you. Thank you, Christopher. Promise.
It can be intimidating at first, but I will say that I've made like lifelong friends, like people, not even friends, but like people who I consider family. Like obviously anytime I meet an indigenous person, we're just like, "Oh, that's my cousin." But like really like I have people who are chosen family now because of that. It brought a lot of different opportunities that I never like really thought about, and it just it was overall the experience, like I said, it was intimidating at first, especially being a res girl, like being in the city element and just flying. I've flown a lot and still I get scared, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And when you get to Denver, everyone's so welcoming and you feel like you're at home away from home, especially like there'll be like a session where you everybody kind of like shares a little bit about themselves, and it's like a mental health like wellness session, which was like one of my favorite parts because it just gave me a different perspective of like you're not really alone.
Thank you, Promise. That's so sweet. I appreciate that. Aiyanna, if you could share 5 to 10 words about your experience at the ambassador training.
Yeah, I think I describe it as empowering. Um, I'd use the word friendship and connection, respectful. Um, Gosh, Chris, you're gonna be crying again because I was just thinking about it too. Because I was just thinking about, oh, I was so happy to see Chris online. I was so happy to see Alton, and everywhere I go, we have our own group chat, and I'm always like, hey, are you guys at this conference? Because I did make a really really good friend group there. So I would definitely say those words as well. Um, I really appreciated the time that everybody took to listen to our stories individually and the time that we were able to share our stories amongst each other, to know everybody's background and where they came from and why they're studying the things that they're studying, why they're doing the things that they're doing in their communities, and why they chose to apply and be an ambassador, I think was really important too. Um, and I do love that y'all we use that phrase, once an ambassador, always an ambassador. I'm very thankful to know Annalise and Deanna from Haskell, and then be able to see all my friends that, again, that we meet up at these different conferences. So yeah, I would definitely say empowering and friendship were really big ones for me. During the training, it was very I wouldn't say heavy. I just was really very appreciative that everybody was so willing to share their stories about, where they come from again. So yeah, definitely empowering and friendship.
Sorry, thank you, Aiyanna. Lisa, if you could share a little bit.
So the first word that came to my mind was vulnerable. Um, I think it was really important for all of us to be able to be vulnerable to ourselves and being able to share with everybody. Because there were a couple moments that I felt were very intense, but were a very good moment for me, and to be able to share with the cohort. And friendship was a big thing. Just like Promise said, we were a cohort of 9 females. And so I felt like I was in the presence of some very empowering women that were very resilient in their accomplishments and moving forward in their paths in life. And one thing I can say is go there with an open mind and be ready to make those friendships, make those memories. Um, and, they're always just like Aiyanna said, we have a group chat. I have Snapchat and all these different things. We all stay in contact. And these are girls that I know that I can reach out to if I need just that little boost of encouragement and like different things. And so for me, just being vulnerable, and open to new friendships and new experiences.
Thank you, Lisa. That's so true. Be open to new experiences. Sasha.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely. In 5 to 10 words, what would you share with potential applicants about the ambassador training?
Connection, awe-inspiring, friendship. I just knowing that the connection I made is gonna last a lifetime. Wonderful people.
Thank you, Sasha. You're so sweet. Deanna, 5 to 10 words, thoughts, feelings around the ambassador training in Denver.
The ambassador training in Denver, 5 to 10 words. I feel like it was very empowering, healing, and it fostered a lot of growth. And I saw a lot of breaking cycles, and I feel like I want to be a part of that. A lot of people empowered me to do a lot more, to advocate for myself. And for my cohort, we had a lot of women, and just being around a lot of women just feels so good too. Just knowing that there's other cool people doing all these work for their communities and doing, I don't know, just being in the dirt, and like they're not afraid to get dirty, and they just really empower me. Just going to these opportunities, I feel like sometimes I get a lot of, not a lot of, let's see, I feel very tired most of the time. So when I go to these conferences or when I go to these trainings, I'm happy to meet all these and all my relatives, because I feel like everybody provides a lot of good medicine to me and what I take on, like walking my academic fields, and just using all those friendships that I've gained just to help motivate me.
Awesome, Deanna. We definitely need those times now, and always, but now would be great. Annalise.
Yeah, so a lot of the words that I came up with that I wrote down, people have already said. So I think we shared a lot of similar feelings and experiences, which is good to know because for me it was like this was like a really special time for me, like just the training and being around all of these awesome Indigenous scholars. It's a really like special place. But my first word I wrote down was emotional. I didn't expect it to be so emotional, but I think I wrote down my other 2 words, which were articulation and storytelling. I think whenever somebody makes you sit down and like articulate like your story and like why you're here and stuff, and it's like really get down to it, it's all of these sort of you know, it's all kind of coming to a head at this training a little bit because you're really like explaining who you are and like why you're here. And then other words I have down are, of course, friendship and connection, a lot of gratitude for the American Indian College Fund, and a lot of gratitude for each other. That was a really big thing that I felt. Kind of what Sasha was saying about advocacy, and I think this is a form of activism, and from my viewpoint, education is activism, and doing this and speaking out for your community and letting other people know is like advocacy and activism. And then my cohort was all women, for all women. And so I just think of matriarchal, I put that down. And then family, like Promise was saying, like these people are my family now. So those were my words.
Well, that is awesome. I think that's a great space to conclude today's information session about the ambassador application process. I want to thank all the ambassadors that were here tonight that gave up more of their time to the ambassador program. We really could not do this program without the amazing people that you just heard from. If you should have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me at Loyola Rankin. No, that's not my email. Sorry. My email is lrankin@collegefund.org. L, the letter, Rankin, Rankin, @collegefund.org. Should you have any questions regarding the ambassador application. Thank you very much. Have a good night.